Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the No BS Zone. I'm Bernie Goldberg with my good friend, the Renaissance man of the Rockies, John Daly. How you doing, John?
I'm doing good, Bernie. How about you?
Good. I want to talk today, at least opening segment today, about an imperiled minority in America, a minority that has become villains in our culture, a minority that people are able to talk trash about and get away with. I feel terrible for this minority group, this imperiled minority group. I'm talking about, here's where the drum roll would come in, John. I'm talking about billionaires. That's right, billionaires, an imperiled minority. Let me read you something a historian, Bernard Lewis, said. It's not possible to be rich, strong, and successful and be loved by those who are none of these things. Bernie Sanders, AOC, Zoran Mandani, whether they're socialist or democratic socialist, who cares? They don't like billionaires. Zoran Mandani, the mayor of New York, said, we don't need billionaires. How stupid is that? Billionaires create companies, they create businesses that hire people, millions of people, tens of millions of people. There are many cases they're philanthropists, but we don't need billionaires, really. When will progressives and socialists ever stop their stupidity and learn? Let me tell you something that Mandani did, and it was really malicious. He went to a building in Manhattan, a building where the CEO of a hedge fund lives, and he made a video, and he pointed to the guy's penthouse, and he said, this is where he lives. And he said, first of all, the mayor complained that rich people of second homes don't pay their fair share. Okay, if I hear the term fair share one more time, I'm going to throw up. And he said, this penthouse, which hedge fund CEO Ken Griffin bought for $238 million. He named the guy and he pointed to the building where he lives. He made him a potential target. Does Mandani remember what Luigi Mangione is accused of doing, shooting a CEO in the back? That was, if anything happens to Ken Griffin, and we pray that it doesn't, that's on Zoran Mandani. Let me tell you something about Ken Griffin's company. He's a hedge fund CEO. Members of that CEO paid nearly $2.3 billion in city and state taxes over the past 5 years. Okay, they're considering a development in Manhattan right now that would produce 15,000 jobs. Personally, I hope he doesn't proceed with this project. I hope he says, you don't like people with money, billionaires, you think we're not paying our fair share? Fine, we'll go to Miami because they treat people with money with respect in Miami. I'm going to read you something that Ken Griffin said. He said, when we moved from Chicago, there was a debate between New York and Miami. It's unquestionably true that we made the right choice. They moved to Miami, not New York. And now what the mayor of New York has made clear to my partners is that we need to double down on our bet in Miami because we want to be in a state that embraces business, that embraces education, that embraces personal freedom and liberty, and that embraces people having an opportunity to live the American dream, and a dream of earned success, not a dream of handouts that leave people dependent on government for their lives and their livelihoods in a way that takes away dignity and honor. I'm not a billionaire, if that even needs to be said, but I agree with every single word Ken Griffin said. Mandani responded that the New York tax system was unjust and that wealthiest New Yorkers need to have their taxes raised so that the city can be one that working people can actually afford to live in. Well, that's old bull.
Yeah, No, I hear you. I wanted to give you another quote here. AOC, she was on a podcast the other day. She was she was asked about billionaires, and here's what she said. She said, there is a certain level of wealth and accumulation that is unearned. You can't earn $1 billion. You just can't earn that. You can get market power, you can break rules, you can abuse labor laws, you can pay people less than they're worth, but you can't earn that. And the line of thinking here, which I think is common among a lot of Democrats, we hear it more, I guess, loudly. People like Mom Donnie and Bernie Sanders, but the idea is that no one should be that rich in a country in which there are lots of people who are just barely scraping by. Therefore, it is immoral to be that rich, and the mechanisms that one uses to become that rich are also immoral. And of course, who has the moral authority, according to these people, to step in and redistribute that wealth as they see fit is government. And I think that is just wrong on so many levels. You brought this up, but capitalism has lifted more people out of poverty than any other economic system
Exactly.
on the planet. And it rewards innovators, and it rewards employers whose hard work and personal sacrifices and financial sacrifices have made other people's lives easier. And to me, that right there is this moral argument that people like AOC and Mom Donnie and Bernie Sanders, they just don't get. Their moral position is, how dare these people enjoy these rewards in ways that other people can't. And that it's such a child's point of view. It's just amazing that we never get past this as a society. Everybody sort of takes for granted what we have in our system, and they think that, if it's so much of this is about equal outcomes, that the left is interested, and they think they can somehow even the playing field, and it is really a child's argument.
Their argument is, and I want to make clear that there's some merit to this. Their argument is nobody needs, their word, needs that kind of money. Yeah, okay, they're right. Nobody needs billions and billions of dollars. My response to that is, so what?
Right.
So what?
Whose business of it is yours?
Exactly. And they think, and this is the big mistake they make. They think, well, if we could take some of those billions, and when I say some, I mean hundreds of millions of their dollars from all these billionaires, we can redistribute it to people who need it, and therefore they'll live better lives and the billionaires won't be affected. Okay, there may be truth in that, but again, so what? The people who earn the money are entitled to it. They're entitled to buy yachts with it. They're entitled to keep it in the bank and do nothing with it. Only in the old Soviet Union and modern day Russia do people use the word need in connection with the amount of money that they have. And so I'm going to go back to the question, John, that I asked in the beginning. Do socialists, will they ever learn? Will they ever learn that people in the United States anyway can pick up and move? They're allowed to leave. And Ken Griffin is thinking about this project on Park Avenue in Manhattan. If he proceeds with it, and I hope he doesn't, it'll produce 15,000 permanent jobs in Manhattan. If he goes to Miami, you know what? It'll produce 15,000 jobs in Miami. It's just so dumb.
Yeah, it's the answer to your question, I think, is no. I don't think socialists are going to learn, otherwise they would stop being socialists. But and one thing they completely gloss over too is that the tax system that we have in America right now is already very progressive.
Exactly.
And it is, and it's I think last time I looked at the stats, the top 10% of Americans pay 72% of all federal income taxes. The bottom half combined pays just like 3% of federal income taxes.
3%.
Yeah, it's insane, and I mean, and I'm a conservative. That troubles me on one sense. On the other sense, I'm like, man, this feels like we're being pretty charitable as a society that we're set up this way, and it's still not enough, and it has to be more.
I'm against the progressive income tax to begin with. I think there should be a flat tax. I think everybody should pay X percent, and the first $50,000, let's say, whatever the number is, 50,000 would be a fair number, I think, is tax exempt. So people who aren't making a lot of money won't pay any taxes anyway. And if you earn $51,000, you'll pay X% on $1,000. You know, rich people, I get back to what I said in the beginning. They're easy to make them villains. As the historian said, it's not possible to be rich, strong, and successful and be loved by those who are none of these things. That's what we, the American people are good, decent, and all that. We hear that all the time. But you know what? They're not going to be against raising taxes on billionaires. They're not. Okay, let's move on.
Sure.
The midterms are 6 months away. That may be too early to talk about the midterms, but we're already doing that. But here's what bothers me. We're already talking about 2028. 2028, we're not even halfway through 2026. Before we get to Vance and Rubio, I want to make sure I read correctly something you once said, John. Did you say that if another Trump, Don Jr., for instance, runs, he'll likely win the nomination? Do I have that right?
Yeah. No, I've actually been arguing that for a while now, and
Okay,
I can explain that if you like.
I wanted to make sure I had that right before I ask you these two questions.
Sure.
Do you think Don Jr. would actually run? And what do you think would happen in the general election?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if he will actually run. He hasn't shown any signs of wanting to. At least none that I've seen. Don Jr. has been very high on JD Vance. Apparently it was him and Tucker Carlson who talked to Donald Trump about getting him as his running mate. Trump initially wasn't going to do that, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, what makes me think it may be more likely that it was even a few weeks ago that Don Jr. will think about this is I think Vance is sort of imploding a little bit. And I know you were going to talk about this, but he's not. Vance has never been a great politician. He was going to lose his Senate primary in Ohio until Donald Trump came through in the 11th hour and endorsed him and turned that race around. That's why he was a senator. That's why he became vice president. I've never been particularly impressed with Vance. I think he in many ways kind of comes across like Kamala Harris and sometimes sort of this hippie suit.
That's not fair. JD Vance is a very smart guy.
He's smart. He's not dumb. I think he's
I don't think Kamala Harris is very smart. JD Vance is a very smart guy, and he's got a great story.
Right.
He comes from economically speaking, he comes from nothing to a Yale education, and he joined the military and all that. So I just want to jump in to say, in my view, anyway, John, the comparison to Kamala Harris is not right.
Right. As a politician, they have different backgrounds. We can talk about who's smarter and all that stuff. But yeah, that's sort of how I feel. So, I don't know. And I think with Don Jr. too, there's also, I'm not sure, I sometimes kind of, you probably haven't seen this much, Bernie, but he does a lot of like public appearances and these online videos where he looks like his state of mind is kind of off these days. I don't know. I mean, he almost looks like he's under the influence of something. I have no idea if that's the case, but that's the way he presents himself. The bloodshot eyes, the slurring of speech. I don't know.
Do you think his father would encourage him to run?
Well, that's a good question. I don't think. I don't know if he would encourage him to run. I will say that. So here's my line of thinking. I know we're going on about this a little long, but the reason I think that if he does run, he'll be the immediate GOP front runner. Is it's part of it goes back to for all the annoyances I personally have with the No Kings protest movement. I think it's pretty obvious that Donald Trump thinks of himself as a king, and the GOP base for the most part has treated him like one. They have largely served as his loyal subjects in this MAGA monarchy. They support and defend him. at every turn, no matter what he does. And they look the other way when he abuses his power. And they believe, as Trump does, that, or at least they seem to believe, that the GOP Congress is supposed to sort of serve as Trump's Knights of the Round Table, not as a separate branch of government. They're supposed to have his back in all cases. And so
he may think of himself as a king, John, but he's acting more like Marie Antoinette.
Yeah,
I mean,
there you
go. Let them eat cake, the peasants, and it didn't end well for Marie Antoinette.
Right.
Building a ballroom and that gold statue in Miami. The gold statue I'm talking about?
I do. It's been getting a lot of focus, but my point is, though, because the Republican Party largely thinks of Trump as this divine, ruler or emperor or whatever you want to call it. I think that there's sort of a romantic element to the idea of an heir to the throne stepping forward in this Trump dynasty, taking the position, and I think it makes sense to me that the personal affection that the GOP base has and the loyalty they have for Donald Trump would have an impact on his son, rising to the throne and taking over.
But I want to make sure I understand you.
Sure.
If he does run, and he probably won't, but if he does run, you're saying he'd win the nomination?
Oh yeah, I think he would.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think he has. Donald Trump's appeal has never been like a policy base. It's never been on his, people haven't been drawn to him for his command of the issues. It is this, he has this, he rises above politics. He's a pop culture figure. He's the celebrity. There is a real, like, a romanticization behind Donald Trump. And I think that will carry over, because if he goes, if no Trump runs, after in 2028, which is the likely case, there's not going to be, MAGA is not going to be inherited in a way by anybody other than a Trump. It's not gonna cling together. It's not gonna rally around unanimously.
So it has to have the bloodline.
Yeah, I think that's right. And otherwise it's back to politics as usual. And a lot of people in the GOP base don't want that. They like the daily chaos and the entertainment value and the what makes Trump special to them. So I think that the closest they're going to get to that is a Don Trump Jr. Vance isn't going to be that person. Rubio is not going to be that person, although both may end up running. But yeah, I think it's a different level.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Sure.
But you think if Don Jr., again, we're just fooling around here because neither of us think he's actually going to run. Right. But there's talk about it. We didn't pull this out of nowhere. If he does run, you think he'll win the nomination? And now the next question, what about the general election?
No, I think he'll probably lose it. So the Democrats could clearly screw this up and and nominate a candidate so ridiculous that even Donald Trump Jr. could conceivably beat that person.
Give me a name or two.
I think AOC. I think AOC is we talked about her earlier. I think she is wildly liked in the Democratic Party, which makes me think she actually could win the nomination. But I think that would be terrible. I don't think most of America takes her seriously. I think most of America she would sort of grate on them to an extent. And that would make it a toss-up. I still think AOC could potentially beat Don Jr. But I think 2028 is going to be a tough year for Republicans anyway. I don't think it's going to turn around in a way that maybe many in the Republican Party are hoping. So
let's segue to that very point. Right now, the consensus is that it's between two people. I mean, it could be 10 other people can come out of wherever they are and decide to run, and somebody can catch on whose names we're not going to be talking about today. But it's either J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio. I know who my choice would be.
Right. I can guess. Yeah. Probably the same as mine.
I met Marco Rubio. I talked to Marco Rubio. I think I went on the air right after I met him at Fox. And I said, if the Republicans don't put him on the ticket as the vice presidential candidate, they deserve to lose. They didn't put him on the ticket. I think they won that year anyway. But Marco Rubio is an impressive guy.
Yeah.
I think J.D. Vance, as I said earlier, John, is smart. He's got a great story to tell about himself, but he's he was 100% anti-Trump until he realized he better be pro-Trump if he
Yeah, I
wants.
think he called him Hitler at one point, if I remember correctly.
So I don't, on principles, I'm not sure he's the guy I'd want. But if it's J.D. Vance against AOC, and by the way, we're not making this AOC stuff up. I said a while back, I said, if anybody out there thinks that that's not a possibility, they're dreaming. I'm not saying she's going to win the nomination or even run. I think she'll run at some point. She could win the nomination and she could win the general election because that's where the energy is in the Democratic Party. And if the Republicans pick some stale person who lacks energy and vision and is just there because he's been there for 100 years, the Republican equivalent of Chuck Schumer, for instance, whoever that might be, AOC could win. But in the real world, it's either going to be J.D. Vance, I think, or Marco Rubio, and I'm picking Marco Rubio. How about you? By the way, the ballot voting is a secret thing, so you could tell me it's none of my business. I'm telling you, I'd vote gladly for Marco Rubio.
Oh, if given the choice between Rubio and Vance, it would be Rubio for me, big time. And I have lots of problems with Rubio. I was very much a fan of his in 2016 when he ran. I was actually planning to vote for him in my primary, but he ended his campaign right before it got to Colorado. But I've been disappointed by a number of things over the past decade. He became this Trump loyalist and he looked the other way on a lot of things I don't think he should have, and he went along with a lot of things I don't like. But I am certainly open to the idea of him being an off ramp from this political era, and because I think at his heart, I think he is a Reagan Republican. He's had to sort of push a lot of those inclinations to the back burner over the last 10 years to remain politically viable within the Republican Party. So he's made concessions and compromises that I don't think I could have ever done, but he's a much better answer. I think he's a very hard worker. He's a policy wonk. He gets this stuff.
Well, John,
he's much more appealing to me than Vance.
Republican who doesn't make concessions, who doesn't,
is gone.
Is gone. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, if someone were to ask me, who's someone would be my dream candidate, I would say someone like a Paul Ryan, who understands, especially on the, what's that?
Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney, yeah. I mean, I think he's sort of happy in retirement at this point. But I would have, I voted for Romney. I would have voted for Romney again if he had run. I think he's done with politics, but I mean, there are a number of people I could come up with that I would personally view as much more appealing, but at the same time, they couldn't win a Republican primary because at some point they stood up to Donald Trump.
And I didn't mean Mitt Romney as an actual candidate. I meant Mitt Romney as the kind of person I could enthusiastically support, who is retired and not favored by Republicans writ large because he doesn't buy into the BS. He was a person I could admire. Paul Ryan is another one I could admire. And those kind of people, sadly, don't win nominations. They don't.
No.
Okay.
And I'll throw out another name while we're talking about this. Congressman Don Bacon. He's getting ready to retire from Congress. I think he would be someone I would enthusiastically vote for, but he's butted heads with Trump as well, so I don't think he has any chance.
I'm Jewish. I have nothing to do with bacon, so I don't.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, shoot, I didn't think you'd have that working against him.
That's a joke.
I know.
Let's move on to the final subject. It's one, John, that you're going to be talking about because I don't want to talk about it. It's one I was hoping to never have to bring up, but here goes anyway. UFOs, or whatever they're calling them these days. New video was just released. all you have to do is release pictures of things going back and forth on the screen, and we don't know what it is. So it must be people coming in from outer space. And I'll tell you, I don't believe any of it. I believe those things that are unidentified flying objects are unidentified, but they're not flying. They're not coming from Neptune or any place. You know what I mean? I just don't believe any of it. Any of it. I'm going to shut up now and give you the last word.
Okay, I think it's funny because Bernie actually pitched this topic, and then you said you didn't want to talk about it. So I'll try to do my best here. So I've long believed, just with the sheer size of the universe, that there has to be life out there somewhere. And I think because of our technological advancements over the years, we're really kind of back on the space boom as of late, that will one day discover life out there, or at least evidence of there having once been life out there. Do I think the aliens have already visited our planet at some point? I guess it's possible, but if there's evidence of that, I doubt that you or I, Bernie, will ever see that. I mean, it's very difficult just to find signs of intelligent life on Earth as it is domestically.
Exactly.
Without.
I was waiting for you to stop talking. That's what I was going to say. There's no.
I stole your joke.
On Earth. So why would? I mean, look, the universe is. Forgive the understatement. The universe is pretty big,
Yeah.
and of course, there's a possibility that there's something resembling intelligent life out there. I just don't think the video that we're seeing that's been released, I just don't believe that's the intelligent life that may be out there.
I agree. I've seen some of these videos.
And you could visit any place in the universe. Why do you want to visit Chicago? I don't get that.
That's a good point. Well, no, I've like I said, I've seen some of these videos. I've seen similar videos that have been released in the past, and they never look how I would expect them to look. They look more to me like reflections or something on a camera lens. I mean,
exactly. That, you know why you think that? Because that's what they are.
Maybe, and it's funny because it may be, and maybe it's neither of those things, but yeah, the movements always look so cartoonish to me. They don't look like this is an actual video. It just, or like something that happened to a video, or something that happened to a camera or something. But yeah, I don't know. If I had to guess, I would say we have never been visited by beings from outer space. But
wasn't there a guy, John, who testified before Congress, who said that there are dead aliens someplace in the United States being held in a secret location in the United States? That I think he said he saw them himself. I think he said this under oath. I don't believe that either. Just
no,
so.
I guess I missed that testimony, but and I'm sure. I mean, there are other people that would swear that they've seen things too, and I can't completely dismiss it, but if my guess is that this hasn't happened yet, and I haven't seen anything compelling enough to get me to change my mind on that. And then again, if this did happen, we would probably not. You and I would not know about it. They wouldn't want to release this to the government. Wouldn't want to release these findings, to the public out of fear of causing a panic or something.
I don't know if you watch enough television to know this, but at some point or another, usually this happened in the 70s, and I even covered one of them. There's some guy, and he's always in the South. He's never in Massachusetts or California. He's always in Mississippi or Louisiana. And he says, yeah, it was a Saturday night, and I went out in my backyard, and these alien people came out of a spaceship, and they took me on the spaceship, and they gave me some food, and then I came back, and like a network correspondent is out there trying to do a story on this nonsense. Not my finest hour. All right, I'm done. How about you, John?
I am. Let's if I'm still, like I said, open to life being out there. We'll see. Maybe not in my lifetime, but I think
I'm not saying there's no intelligent life out there.
Right.
The universe is, as I said, an understatement, is a pretty big place, and it would be pretty statistically unusual that we're the only planet in the whole universe, we're the only planet that has people. No, I don't believe. I believe there are other planets. I just don't believe they've come. I just don't believe those videos we're watching is an indication of those people coming to check us out. That's all I'm saying. All right, enough. This was so we talked about John Jr. Who's not going to run. We talked about AOC, who's not going to be the nominee this time around. We talked about spaceships and aliens. What the hell are we doing here? And
I don't know.
As Steve Martin used to say, what the hell is going on here? What the hell is going on? He'd put the emphasis on a different word each time he said it. All right, I'm done. Until next, John, nice talking to you as always. Until
Likewise.
next time, we'll see you around. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.